Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You're here with me, Daniel.
And Aaron.
And in this episode, we have a Group G preview. So it's an exciting group, Aaron. Obviously, we've got an English team in this one with Man City. We've got the wild cards of Dortmund. Who knows what's going to happen there? We've got the slow starters of Sevilla, and we've got the completely unknowns of Copenhagen. How are you feeling about this group?
I think when I first reacted to this group, it was pretty, I think, straightforward for Man City. And I said that it would depend on that Dortmund Sevilla matchup, which they're not facing each other first. I said it would come down to that. But quite excited to see how that goes. I think it's going to be quite close between them two, and kind of, as you said before, the unknowns of Copenhagen. See how they get on. I believe that they've been in the qualifying stages for the last few seasons, but just unable to make it through to the Champions League. But they've managed to this time, so we'll see if they can cause any upsets.
Hopefully not. Not with one assets from other teams. So I want to caveat at the beginning of this video, as I will with the others, that I've got a pretty set chip strategy in my head where I am going to be going for a match day two wild card just now that we have the fixtures. In this, we will be going through the fixtures and how they play a part in the selection for each of the teams, as well as is anyone injured of importance anyway. We're not going to go through every single player. Are there any notable transfers in and out? And what's the current form been? Who has been getting in the goals? So, Aaron, we're going to start with Man City as they are top seeds. Their form, as everyone that plays FPL knows, has been goals, goals, goals. 2-0 against West Ham, 4-0 against Bournemouth, 3-3 against the best team in the league, Newcastle United. And today, as we are recording on a Saturday, they beat Crystal Palace 4-2. Now, I don't want to go through the starting 11s like we normally do because, again, everyone plays FPL. So I want to spend as little time as possible on the English teams, but also we're still going to recommend their players. So Haaland in the first game won a penalty, which would be 2 points in this game, scored the pen, and then got another goal, KDB, with an assist. The second game, Haaland scored. Kevin De Bruyne got a goal and an assist. Gundogan got a goal. Foden got a goal and an assist. And Cancelo got an assist. The next game, Haaland scored again. KDB got an assist. Gundogan got a goal. Bernardo got a goal and an assist. And Rodri got an assist. And in the 4-2, Haaland's got a hat-trick. Gundogan's got an assist. Foden's got an assist. Rodri's got an assist. Stone's got an assist. And Bernardo Silva got the other goal. I don't know if I said in that 4-0, by the way, that Haaland got a goal. I think I might have said that. But he got an assist, just to clear that up. But either way, he's got 6 goals in 4 games. We've got to be mad not to go without him, haven't we?
That's the thing. I remember us saying on that live stream that we were probably going to go Paris Saint-Germain forward, Harry Kane, Benzema, and Haaland. I think is I don't know what his selected percentage is currently, but I think because a lot of people do play FPL, I do think Haaland will be picked in a lot of teams. I think it's kind of mostly the fantasy UCL kind of creators and content creators on Twitter that are probably going with that same strategy of Paris Saint-Germain forward, Benzema, and Harry Kane. I think because there is that fear factor that Alvarez could appear in a few games, just due to that Pep comment of once a game is every 3 days, Haaland will not play every game. So I think that scared a few people off. And it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. I personally think Haaland will play the first 4 games because I don't think Pep will leave qualification out of the group to chance. Haaland is already on a absolute rampage in Champions League scoring. I do not think that Haaland sitting out in the Champions League for the Premier League is going to happen. I think Alvarez is more likely to play in the Premier League, but also the 5 subs in both formats now. I think Haaland could potentially start both and just have his minutes managed. I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking like if I was a manager and I had a striker in that good form, knowing that I've went ages without a striker, and I know that my team I know that I've gotten at my team because they're not passing to the striker. You just want to try and kill teams off and then keep possession, bring them off. But also knowing that he could get injured in training. So when he is fit, you kind of want him to play as much as he can. That's just my kind of my thoughts at the minute. I do think that Haaland will be selected by a lot of casuals, so it's going to be quite dangerous to go without him.
Obviously, their first fixture, so we'll go through the fixtures. They've got Sevilla away, then Dortmund at home. Sevilla away is on the Tuesday as well, is that right? But they're in the Tuesday game.
Yeah.
Then they've got Dortmund at home, Copenhagen at home, Copenhagen away, Dortmund away, Sevilla at home. So mirrors, which is nice. And that's what I kind of like about it, because Sevilla away is probably the most difficult fixture that they could have. Obviously, we'll have a look at Sevilla's form shortly. Because of that, I feel quite comfortable not having a Man City player for match day one, seeing how Pep treats the Champions League, and then when a wild card going into Dortmund at home, I think we'll score a hatful. Obviously, the two Copenhagen games, I think we'll do well, and then Dortmund away, I think we'll do well. So, if you can get a team for those 4 games, I think you want a Man City player in for those 4 fixtures, and just giving yourself the breathing room from match day one. I think that could really, really help. I'm not that keen about having them play Sevilla away. It's not an easy game. They'll make it hard. They'll be up with the usual tactics. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple of red cards either way. From going through the scorers and the assisters, there seems to be the usual names popping up. Obviously, Gundogan, Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, even Rodri with a couple of assists. So I think obviously if you want to go in and pick between those, that's absolutely fine. They're about 8 million each across the board. Gundo's 8. Rodri's only 6, so he could be good for ball recoveries as well as getting assists. But the person I want to talk about real quick is Mahrez at 10 million, because he's Mr. Champions League for Pep, but is 10 million too much?
Yes. I think just due to people like Vinicius being similar prices, Sterling also having the early game, I do think it's a bit too expensive for that risk of rotation. We do know that in previous seasons that Pep will kind of have that a few players which will only play Champions League games, and they will play every single one. So we know that Gundogan was one a few years ago before he really cemented his place in the starting 11. And there was Foden was the one after that. Mahrez was also someone as well. So where I think it was last season or the season before, Foden never missed a Champions League game. So I think Pep likes to have almost like a starting 11 that he plays specifically for Champions League games. And that's why I think your strategy is quite good in regards to Man City, because once we see what players are getting selected, we can then almost target them for the Copenhagen's games. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it starts. Obviously, we know with Man City, the risk versus reward is always there. Any player can get a hatful of points. But I do think that Mahrez is too expensive to start with unless we see that he is selected by Pep consecutive games.
Looking at the defenders as options, obviously a lot of people may want them despite conceding 5 goals in the last 2 games, because they did keep 2 clean sheets early doors. Stones at 5 million leaps out, as does Ake at 4.5. Now, if you are going to go with one of these players on the opening day, I think it's less of a risk because you can always make that substitution on the Wednesday. I think if Ake is fit, he could get the nod, and then Stones gets the Premier League games. So that is worth a little punt at 4.5. Cancelo 6.5. I'm still unconvinced. He'll probably get 12 points in the first game, though. Such as the way things are, you can always overthink. Diaz 5.5, Walker 5.5. What bones you got to pick out of them? What's your gut instinct with that?
Again, just thinking about casuals. To be honest, I think the majority of people who play this game are casuals. But in terms of, like, Cancelo was the highest scoring defender last season. He was 5 ahead of Militao. So 65 points overall, almost a point for every 0.1 million. So that's really good. I said almost. It is that. um, but like the amount of ball recovery points that he got, he's already selected by 45%, which is the highest defender percentage by quite a bit. Van Dijk is next with 30% currently. Obviously, we know that more teams will be created closer to the Champions League start. And so basically within this week of the videos being released, he had 2 goals and 3 assists last season in the Champions League. So, but he also just picked up a ton of ball recoveries. And we've always kind of scratched our head like what constitutes a ball recovery. So when I've been watching Man City recently, whenever they try and play like a pass out of pressure, Cancelo was almost just standing there because they always try and the majority of teams that they've played so far will play it to the wingers. Obviously, Newcastle had success with that, but other teams haven't. So in similar situations, especially with Sevilla, who are going to play a lot through their wingers, the Cancelo does have a high ball recovery potential, and so he's a double. What's the word? Like a double attacking weapon or something like that. He's just the amount of points that he can get from both sides are huge, and so I think he's fairly priced, but I've tried to get Ake in a few of my drafts, just until I saw that he got injured. So it's really just kind of a wait and see. But I don't know what is the extent of the Laporte injury. Do you know the exact timeline on that?
No, but at the start of the season, they said it was going to be months.
Yeah, so um, I was quite surprised when I think it was against Newcastle where he picked up the injury that DS was dropped originally. So it's going to be interesting if Ake, when he's fit again, which he seems close to be, was he on the bench today? I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, he's close to fitness, 4.5, which is very tasty.
So, are you going to be going for any of these options match day one? Or do you even have your chip strategy set yet?
I haven't looked kind of at the fixtures yet, like in detail, just kind of who's playing who on the first day. So I don't know kind of that swinging fixtures yet. I still don't know if I'm going to stick to the whole leave my wild card for the knockouts. Worked 2 seasons ago, didn't work last season, so I'm still undecided at this point. I don't even know about Limitless and stuff like that. But in terms of Man City, they're just always so dominant, and Sevilla are not in good form, as we're about to kind of go on to. Um, so I can't see them having too much success, to be honest. So I think Man City are just one of them teams where you just get people in regardless.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think I'm going to wait and see. Hopefully, Alvarez plays because at 6 million, I think as a striker, if he's going to start for Man City, you just have to have him, just non-negotiable at that price, and then you can get a £10 million midfielder. So we'll move on to second seeds in the group, which were Sevilla. They've transferred out obviously Diego Carlos. They brought in Nianzou to replace him. Also got Isco from Real Madrid. Do you want to talk about them?
Yeah. So at the time of recording, they are 25 minutes away from kickoff against Almira. So we kind of don't know the result of that yet. If anything does change, we'll cover it in some of our later episodes. So they've kind of had freak matches where you kind of like, oh, them incidents rarely happen, probably once in a season. And in the 2 games Sevilla have played, they've had one of them freak incidents in both games. So Osasuna, that penalty decision, I don't know if you saw that, where just the hand was up, just kind of trying to be physical in the box, and the player just like runs into a hand which was already up there, as if he got slapped, and it was made a penalty decision. So even then, though, they didn't do too well attacking wise, even though they dominated possession, which we kind of expect from Spanish teams. But Sevilla are always kind of that team where you're like, if they're in good form, they're going to perform badly in the Champions League, and then if they're in bad form in the league, they somehow just pull out unreal results. They're always kind of that team that make you really frustrated with your team if you select their players as well. The They just don't seem to perform when you pick them. Kind of like Zaha from FPL. You pick him, he doesn't do anything. When you don't pick him, he'll be dominant. So with this last game against Valladolid, they 1-1 draw. They had the 2 red cards, but both of them were bench players, so nothing to worry about in terms of starting 11 players. But again, lots of shots, very little on target.
I thought one of them was Acuna, but did he get subbed off?
Yeah, it was he was subbed off.
He is a starting player that he got sent off. Obviously, just wasn't on the pitch at the time. But it's obviously just something to be aware of if you look at the team sheet tonight and he's not playing.
Yeah.
Why?
Which obviously he won't be, yeah. But again, it's kind of like 60% plus possession in both of these games. Almost 20 shots, both games. But it's just the disconnect between shots on target to actual shots taken. There's a very big disconnect. So it's almost like we have all this possession. We're unable to break teams down. Let's just have a chance. Let's just have a wishful shot. And so against teams like Man City, where you're not going to have that much possession, almost that's kind of wasteful. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in this game and next week's. But against Man City, when they're not that clinical and you only have about 1 or 2 shots per game, it could look quite good for a Man City clean sheet perspective. So currently winless. So they just need to get that first win under the belt. And I'm sure that just has to do with like kind of gelling new players. When you watch the highlights, a lot of it does go through their wing players, as I mentioned before. And so that does boost the ball recovery potential for Kyle Walker and Cancelo.
Yeah, I think Kyle Walker's looking good for his price. It's 5.5. I agree. I can't really see Sevilla scoring too many. They changed the players around quite a lot as well. Fernando seems to be always there, which is fine if you're looking for a ball recovery monster. But the right backs changed, the centre backs, one of them's changed. Rekic's played both games, so if you did want a centre back, he's 4.5 million. Probably wouldn't go for him against Man City. But if you're looking to bring someone in at that price against Copenhagen, then a double up against Dortmund. And then Acuna, who got sent off from the bench, he's left back 4.5 million. Historically very attacking. But I think he flatters to deceive when it comes to actual points. I think he's one of those underlying stat monsters, and he's actually not great.
Rekic scored in the last game as well.
Yeah. They're starting with the striker Mir. He got a goal in the first game, so end the series not in sight. But as you say, I don't think they're looking great finishing. As far as those attacking players go, obviously you can get Isco in the team, that'd be good, but he's not started yet. And the only sort of forward player that started both games is Gomez. Lamella's got 1 start, Corona's got 1 start, Campos has got 1 start. They've changed formation a bit. Went from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3. And stay away from them is probably what I'd say. Would you recommend anyone?
No, just kind of what you were mentioning before. I think one of their biggest issues is that Mia, who plays there, was a winger for the longest time, so they're playing a winger up front. It's just not ideal. They got loads of money for Carlos. It's almost like, can they get a striker through the door? Because they definitely need it. Papu Gomez, obviously an Atalanta legend. He's primarily a 10, and just because he's quick and good at the ball, they're playing him on the wing. Lamella, we know what he's like from Tottenham. It's almost like they're playing tons of people out of position. And I think that's one of their biggest issues. So they just need to get people back in and kind of in a settled formation. So once they've done that, they might perform later in the group stage, but currently at this point in time, probably just need to avoid them, especially because of the first matchup.
So we'll move on to Dortmund. Now, Dortmund are really interesting because they've actually got an early fixture against Copenhagen on the Tuesday. So that means that I think, again, if you're going down the match day 2 wildcard route, this could be a team to get some players from. Especially on a Tuesday, you can sub them out if they underperform. We're going to see the starting lineups, and then you don't have to worry about them for Man City in the second game. Obviously, if you are thinking a bit more long term, then maybe they aren't the team to go for. So we'll have a little look through. Obviously, they've transferred out Haaland. They also transferred out the goalkeeper Berkey. Axel Witsel, who I think is very underrated for the job he did for them, is gone. Zagadou's gone. And Marcel Schmelzer has finally left. But they brought in Niklas Schul, Schlotterbach, Adeyemi from Salzburg, Modeste, the striker, and Loschka as a backup goalkeeper. Kobel is their goalkeeper. 4.5 million, I think he is. I said this last year. Do you really want Dortmund goalkeepers? Maybe in the first game. Could be a good punt. Again, depending on what route you're going down, whether you want longevity or a 1-week punt for the early fixture. Meunier started the first 2 games at right back. He's a bit of a cult legend. He was subbed off at halftime in the second game for Wolf, who is a midfielder on the game, I believe. Wolf got a goal, and he started the next 2 games at right back as well. Hummels and Schlotterbeck have started every game at centre back. Guerrero started every game at left back, and he's got himself a goal in one of the last 4 fixtures. Dahoud is injured, I believe. He started the first 3 games, obviously not really doing much anyway. He's CDM. He's now been replaced by Ozcan, who got an assist in the last game. Bellingham's played the last 3 games. Oh no, he's played all 4 games, sorry, but he's not got a return yet. Marco Reus has played all 4 games, and he's got a goal and 2 assists. He's also the penalty taker, 7.5 million. And then they've sort of been jumping around for the wingers. Adeyemi's had a couple of games, Brandt's had a couple of games, Marlin's had a couple of games, Gitten's had 1, and Torgan Hazard has had 1. The only people with assists from the wing are Brandt with a goal and Gittens off the bench with a goal. However, another cult hero, Youssef Moukoko, he started the first game as a striker. He came on the next game as a winger and got a goal and an assist because he is the greatest player of all time. However, he's been replaced by the new boy Modeste up front. He's not played again since. Modeste played 3 games. He's been terrible in all of them, although he did get a goal today. If we look at their form, they won the first game 1-0 against Leverkusen, which is important because that's a Champions League tie. They won the next game 3-1. Then in the third game, in classic Dortmund style, they were 2-0 up and then got beat 3-2. And the one today, 1-0. So they're doing all right. They're not doing badly. Haller, although they have signed him, isn't available for obviously very, very sad reasons. We hope he gets better soon. They're sitting in 6th in the Bundesliga. And like I said, what a nice early fixture. What are you making of the Dortmund this year?
I think other than that, like last minute lapse of concentration, whether that 2-goal lead slip, they actually do look a lot more solid defensively. So I think players like Guerrero do look a little bit more solid, especially the fact that he is on every set piece for an attacking team. He is an attacking left back, and he's 4.5. I can't see choosing a goalkeeper at 4.5 over Guerrero when he has just as much. Well, he has a bigger potential of points, a much higher ceiling. And
you seen you're not going to double up on Dortmund defence, Aaron?
No, I can't see you getting the goalkeeper if Guerrero's the same price. I don't understand that.
I don't either.
So I think that was a typo, to be honest. I've said that from when the prices were announced that Guerrero's price was a bit of a typo, but especially when Tavernier has come in at 6 million, I'm like,
yeah. I mean, he is on pens, but if Rangers can actually get one.
We'll see. We won't tell Nathan we said that.
No.
But they do look better defensively, but that's just because Dortmund standards in past seasons was so low. And so played 4 games, got 2 clean sheets, but it's whether you could against Copenhagen, it's a good chance of a clean sheet, I guess. But we've got a few players that I want to highlight with them that could cause issues for Dortmund. Overall, I think it's a solid team, and I think they're fairly priced this year.
Yeah, I think for me, because it's the early fixture, because I'm going for that 1 weeker, I want to see who's starting. The 4 players that leap out to me, you've already mentioned Guerrero at 4.5. He's just in at that price. He's just in. Marco Reus, I think, is my 7.5 million midfielder for match day 1 on pens against Copenhagen. They're at home. I think that's a really good fixture for him. And then depending on if they play or not, I think Julian Brandt is a really good player. And he does get in the goals when he plays. The problem is he tends to play like 1 and 3, but we'll know. And the other player, if he starts, Mukoko up front at 5 million. And then you just pump your money into 2 premium midfielders and your 2 premium forwards just for that match day 1. I think could be a really good shout if he starts. If he's not starting, then obviously the dream's dead already. I do think Modeste will start, but you never know. Never know what can happen between now and then. Are you planning on having any of them in?
I've just currently got Guerrero currently, but I am looking at kind of a 7.5 million. I currently had Goncalves, but as you said, match day 1 depends on really on my strategy for chips. Depends on that. So at the minute, it's too early for me to say that, but definitely you want to prioritize people from these 2 stages just to get your team off to a solid start. Just so you know who's playing.
So move on to Copenhagen. You've said that you've identified some players. What's their form looking like?
Pretty 50-50, literally. They do play tomorrow at the time of recording, so we won't have their 7th game of the season. They're quite deep into the season. So they've played 6 in the league and also the 2 qualifying games. So they're quite deep into the season. Normally, that can pay off for the first game for some of these leagues if they start the season earlier because they're a lot more gelled and you can see a few upsets in the first game. It's normally no disrespect to Copenhagen, but teams like this where they come in pot 4 who have played the season a little bit longer, they can get a point or they can even cause an upset. And then that's the only result that they get for the rest of the group stage because by then the other teams have gotten into their flow and have starting 11. So with Copenhagen in the league, they have won 3 and lost 3. I think the biggest thing with Copenhagen is the fact that all their goal scorers are midfielders, even though they're playing as forwards. But the game has like just dumped every single person. It looks like who's ever played for Copenhagen in their history, because I think they've got like 7 or 8 forwards, which is just an absolute joke. But the 2 people that I was going to bring up, they're both 7 million midfielders, and just whenever you look at a random Copenhagen result, one of these 2 people will have scored. So I'm just going to pull up their names. I'm going to mispronounce them, so apologies for that. But you've got Beal, 7 million. He's their penalty taker, and Kleisen, he's 7 million, and he's ahead in the goal scoring charts. So Kleisen in the games so far, he has scored 8 goals in 6 games, and Beal has 5 goals in 6 games, including a hat trick in one of the matches. So 7 million midfielders, probably a bit too pricey for a pot 4 team, especially with the opposition that they're against. But if you are absolute mad and
sounds like us to be fair,
just fancy a punt, I think these players just as a kind of a 1 week throwing everything at them against Dortmund, who leak goals. Yeah, Beale plays up front by himself as a 7 million midfielder. Kleisen on the left wing and just scores all them goals. So there's some shouts, to be honest. In terms of the rest of the team, I don't understand the pricing, to be honest, because I think they're quite expensive, especially when you compare it to Dortmund's pricing. There's not many people who are like kind of budget. So I think that kind of makes you be put off from Copenhagen. Don't even look at their forwards. Not that people would anyways, and you didn't need my advice to tell you that. But basically, their whole starting 11 is in their midfield and defense. I think probably the goalkeeper's out of position as well. Just a joke, obviously.
How much is it? Do you know?
Let me have a look.
I don't even, to be fair.
4.5. And oh dear, they have I don't know why it keeps selecting defenders, but they've got 4 goalkeepers.
Yeah,
So I think that just comes from people on the app not really knowing these teams and just looking to get them into the app ASAP.
Yeah,
that's a lot of apps.
Some teams players aren't even on starting players. Classic UEFA Gaming Hub. Yeah, I think for a 1 week punt, I don't mind one of those players at 7 million. I can maybe have a look at squeezing them in because I know that some teams I was looking at, I'm probably not going to look at anymore for game week 1. So, yeah, that sounds really interesting. Again, it all comes down to what is your strategy. Aaron, you often play your wild card in the knockouts. So I don't think if you were planning on doing something like that, I don't think 1 week punts are the way forward. If you are looking for a match day 2 or match day 3 wild card, then I don't see anything wrong with going for a Copenhagen player against Dortmund. If anything, it probably covers your back if you go for one and then Guerrero. Hopefully one of them gets a return. And then you can bench the other for your mustard Wednesday players. But we'll leave this group here, Aaron. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We are the main event. You can find us on Twitter at UCL Fantasy Pod. We're on YouTube, as you've seen, if you're looking at our ugly mugs. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere. Also, if you go onto our Twitter handle, we now have a link tree on there, so you can find our other socials too. Thank you very much, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye now.